What's up, everybody? This is Bombshell by Blue. I'm your host, Danté Williams, and today I'm excited to be joined by an actress whose work has spanned from cult sci-fi classics to psychological thrillers and just grounded human dramas. So we're talking about evolution, identity, resilience, and today we are joined by Kandyse McClure. Kandyse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dante. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us. We are honored to have you on our platform. So, like I said, thank you again.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
So, just want to get right into just your origin story and your roots. So, you're
Hmm.
South African born, and then you moved to Canada, I believe. Is it Toronto, to be specific?
I did live in Toronto for a while, but we immigrated to Vancouver first.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I was 11 the first time. It's kind of crazy. Like I traveled here by myself. I like walked across the border. I had a letter from my mom that I handed to the border guard to be like, somebody's coming to get me.
Really?
Yeah, it was totally wild. Yeah, if it happened today, it'd be a different story, I think. But of course, we went through all the regular legal processes. But I stayed in Canada for a couple of years, but I really missed home. I missed South Africa. I was a teenager, so I
Mhm.
went back. And I traveled back and forth to South Africa and Canada up until my early 20s when I really settled back in Vancouver. But yeah, I've traveled, just lived in Toronto for a while, lived in Los Angeles, in the Caribbean, in the UK, all over.
Okay. And was it a culture shock at all? Like when you first got there, were there any similarities to South Africa and Vancouver?
Could not be more different.
Mm.
Literally, from where I live in Durban to Vancouver, it's exactly halfway around the planet. Like if you
Mhm.
go past Vancouver, you're going back to Durban. It could not be further from where I grew up. I think initially the biggest culture shock was how individual North American society
Mhm.
was to me. South Africa to me is a very kind of collectivist place. I grew up in a strong family bond. I knew everybody on my block. I went to school with everybody, church.
Mhm.
Um, so it was a real shock at how kind of alone I felt right away when I was so used to being around people all the time.
Yeah. So I've been in Toronto a lot, but I've never been to Vancouver. And I do
Ooh,
know Toronto is like a melting pot kind of city. Like I compare Toronto as being the New York City of Canada. So
hot
is
take,
Vancouver like
Dante.
that at all?
I have a hot take about Toronto and its identity with the
Okay, go
Torontonians are
ahead.
gonna
Hot takes, hot
they're
takes.
gonna string me up for this. Well, having been to New York and
Hmm.
having lived in Toronto, I love Toronto. You're right. It is a melting pot. And the thing that I love about Toronto is that everybody considers themselves Torontonians, even if you're from Caribbean backgrounds, Asian background, whatever it is, everybody feels Torontonian.
Hmm.
They really um stand up for their area codes. I loved that about it. It is the big smoke. It's a big, grimy city. And I wanted that at the time. So it really met me in that place. My take is that Toronto wants to be New York, but it's actually London.
Mm.
It wants so desperately to be New York, but it's London.
Now, how
It
is
was
it?
modeled after London. I mean,
Okay.
I felt more
Just went to.
similarity living in London to Toronto than I did in New York in a lot of ways. Maybe culturally, it's much more like New York, but
Mhm.
I don't know. Even like the slang, like Toronto slang and like UK Mandem slang has more of a relationship to me than New York slang does. Like
Yeah.
it's the same kind of mix up Caribbean, African, South Asian kind of mix, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you lived in London as well, or you just visited London?
Um, my now husband was in London for a long time. So when we were dating, I would spend time there. He spent time here, but I spent a lot more time with him in London than he did here in Vancouver with me.
Okay. So you really been all over. And I was gonna ask if that was just because of your acting career or was it personal life, so I got that answer as well.
I think in South Africa, in Afrikaans, there's a phrase called rondlopen.
Hmm.
It basically translate as like walking around. My grandmother used to call me that when I was a kid, a hot foot, because I'd be up the driveway and out the house. As soon as school was done, I found myself someplace. It's carried on in my life. It serves me in my acting, you know. I'm not too attached to place.
Hmm. And I also seen in an interview that you're an only child as well. So that's something that we both have in common.
Okay, I was gonna say, don't hold it against me,
No, no,
Dante.
I am too. So I wanted to know, are you more of the, because there's like, I feel like there's two types of only children. Are you more of the
Mm.
lone wolf one, or are you more of the social butterfly that kind of like seeks interaction from people?
Ooh, that's a good question, you know. Even though I am an only child, I'm the only child of my parents. I grew up in a multi-generational household. I grew up with my aunts, my uncle, my great-grandmother, my grandmother. I don't have any cousins on my maternal side, but I got like a gang of cousins on my paternal side. I think there's like 60 some odd of us, and we can recognize each other because you can tell a
Mhm.
McClure. You'd be walking around and be like,
Mhm.
you and me got the same grandmama. um, Useful trying to in the dating pool. You're like, no, no,
No,
no, we're
definitely.
related.
Yeah, definitely need
Yeah,
that.
I can tell. Um, so I didn't really think of myself as an only child because I was in a house with other people. Um, I have to say a little bit of both. A lot of my friends have big families. I like to go to their houses because I like the noise and the chaos and the busyness and all the people. But I am ultimately an introvert. I do recharge in solitude, in silence. Yeah.
And is it the same way when you're on sets? Do you kind of like go off to the side and duck off and like recharge on your own instead of like being like amongst the people and like on the set with the other actors or actresses?
I'm so sorry about the sirens. I'm at my I'm at my office and I'm in the
It's
thick of
okay.
it here. Um, yeah, you really have to manage your energy on set, at least I do,
Hmm.
just depending on what the demands of the work are for the day. If it's a light day, then I do have a bit more energy, social kind of battery to be around with everybody. I'm also nosy. I am so your nosy neighbor. I've got questions, and so I'm always like, what y'all doing? What's going on?
Mhm.
What's this? Can I touch it?" Like,
No, I feel that for sure.
yeah.
I'm more so of I suck at small talk, but when it's something I'm actually
Yeah.
passionate about and care about, I can talk for days and just ask questions and, just be social.
I can talk for days. I can talk about anything.
Mhm.
It's a gift and a curse. I don't have that, but I do get a bit of social anxiety. It's very strange because it's not in the moment, because in the moment I have another person with me. You know, you're here with me. So I get to have that interaction and that feels really great.
It's the lead up
But
to it, the anticipation.
it's afterwards.
Oh.
It's after when I'm alone and I go, "Oh, did I say that right? Was that entirely correct? You
Mhm.
know, was that true to what I think, how I feel? Did I offend anybody?" Like, when you say so many words, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
were all of them completely authentic? But um, I think my bar for that is just incredibly high.
Mhm.
Um, I don't like double speak, you know, I don't do well with innuendo or
Mhm.
having to read between the lines. I can, but it makes me feel a bit icky. Like,
Mhm.
I always just want people to say what they mean. Like, I'd rather you just don't like me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I rather
Like,
know
I'm
what it
cool with
is.
that.
Yeah. Hmm. I feel that.
Than be like, huh. Because then I always catch it, right?
Hmm.
You can always tell. And you're
Hmm.
like, huh, the words and the vibe are not in line.
Hmm.
So I'm very cautious about that. I'm very cautious about my words and my actions aligning all the time because I don't like that feeling and I don't want anybody else to feel that way.
Got you.
Yeah.
So your career as an actor and your passion for being an actress, was
Hmm.
that something that was formed prior to moving to Canada, or was that something that you had when you were in South Africa as well? Is that like family roots, or did you see inspirations on TV? Like how did that passion come about?
Such a funny thing, Dante. I'm a I'm a mixed kid from a sort of middle class suburb in the outskirts of Durban, which is not the exciting city in more so now in South Africa. Like being an actor on television was just not a possibility in my
Hmm.
mind. Like where, how?
Hmm.
Um, I grew up watching Star Trek, and I loved sci-fi from a kid. My aunt read a lot of sci-fi novels, and because I loved the idea of the possibility. Now, I was the kid who like got all the neighborhood kids together to do like Mother's Day pageants. I would choreograph numbers, and there'd be like set changes. There'd be skits in between and in the instrument. Like I was that kid for sure. But I didn't think it was a career,
Hmm.
until we came to North America. And even then, I didn't take drama in school. I didn't do improv. And my high school was like, we had a really incredible improv team. They were national champions many years in a row. But I was in science class, like failing. Um,
It's funny because I can relate. I sucked at science
you know,
growing
well, because you think you have to be a thing. You
up.
think this is what I come from a family of academics on my mother's side. They're all very serious, learned people. They got PhDs and all sorts of stuff. And here I am. Um, but my father's side of the family is incredibly musical. They're very talented. That is the kind of showbiz side of the family.
Mhm.
Um, Again, I didn't seek it out. The first piece of acting I got was just because it was me. It was a 17-year-old South African girl who was dreaming of being a star. That was the role. It was Athol Fugard's first post-apartheid play, Valley Song, that I did here for a local theater festival. It just so happened. The place we rehearsed, the guy who ran the studio, very famous actor, William B. Davis. He was on the X-Files, and he very quietly went to his agent who called me. I didn't even answer that call for like a month. I was like, who is this calling my mother house? You know, on the answering machine, like,
Mhm.
hi, this is Richard Lucas. We're calling for, I thought it was a scam. But I went in there, and even he was doubtful. He gave me some lines to read, and he was like, "Well, you don't know what you're doing, but but Bill called me and told me to see you, so I'm gonna send you on this audition." And the audition he sent me was actually for the role of a guy. It was a male role, Brady. But I booked it. I booked that. I did a movie and then I booked a series and then I worked for a year and then I was like, oh, this is a thing. I can learn how to do this. This is actually something I really love to do. I keep getting hired. I'll go to school later. Like, I'll go get my nursing degree another time. So it's something that pursued me that I did not pursue. And for years, I would keep saying, oh, next year I'll go back to school. Next year I'll go back to school. Next year I'll go back to school. I just never did. I signed up for acting classes. I wanted to learn more about technique. I wanted to learn about the different ways of doing it, the different paths you could take, different aspects of it. I love production. Being on set is fascinating to me. I love all the little pieces that work together to make this bigger thing, and I love the collaborative nature of it. It did take me a couple decades to be like, oh, I am an actor,
Mhm.
actually, legitimately. I've done this long enough. I have enough under my belt. I I can claim this now. But that took me a really, really long time. because I didn't pursue it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you
That
didn't
imposter
actually,
syndrome, it'll creep up on
I
you, isn't
was
it?
I was really just about to get into it. Because it's like you kind of, when you've got that first role, you took it serious to a degree because you started taking acting classes, wanted to study the technique, etc. But still, you didn't claim yourself as an actor or actress until decades into it. So why do you think that is? Even though you took it seriously and you did start to get roles and it was your
Mm.
career, you didn't want to
Hmm.
label yourself as that.
I think there's a couple of things, Dante. One, because I come from a family of academics where the idea is that you earn the degree in order to pursue the career, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't have that piece of paper. I didn't have that legitimizing thing that said, yes, you've studied this and you are worthy to call yourself X. And that kind of stuck in my mind. Also, a little bit uncomfortably, one of the classes that I spent most time in, um, that teacher really hurt me in a lot of ways, hurt my creative self. I'm not the only one. There have since been like New York Times articles about this person. They continue to teach, and a lot of people find value in that. But it was at the time that I was there was a bit of a toxic environment. And all that to say is that I had somebody telling me that what I was doing was shit, right? Excuse my French. I had somebody telling me that you aren't legitimate, that
Mhm.
the best that you will hope to achieve is in this class under my instruction. Mind you, I am on a television show at the time. I
Mhm.
am shooting Battlestar Galactica. I am there with Edward James Olmos and Mary McDonnell and like these heavy hit. I'm playing opposite these people. They're giving me more story. They're giving me this character expansion, but I'm going to an acting class at night and I'm having a teacher tell me, you're not an actor. Now, at the time, you're in your 20s and you're full of angst and you're like, yes, no, um, in that context, I believe, or it's just the kind of person that I am. If I'm studying something, if I'm with you, if I'm in some kind of relationship with you, we're all in, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to give you everything. Uh, because that's just how I operate. Why are we doing it if we're not doing it completely? And so that's what you do. You hand yourself over. You go, yes, this is this teacher. Here's my mentor. She knows more than me. I am going to absorb everything. And if she tells me what I'm doing is shit, then I have to believe her because that becomes this baseline, right? But it took me a long time after leaving that class, and it was like leaving kind of an abusive relationship emotionally. Like it wasn't a pretty ending. It was messy and just really hurtful. But it took me a long time to relearn my instincts. I had to go back and go, no, your instinct and your imagination is the thing that got you here. And whatever, yes, you can learn about the techniques and the Meisner and the Strasberg and the emotional, you can learn all this physicality and voice and there are techniques, but it is still you. You are still, those are tools that your creative self picks up in order to achieve the thing that you're going for. But that talent, that impetus, that creative fire is still you. So you have to hone that instinct, learn to listen to it very clearly, understand what its voice is so that you can hear it in the noise, not destroy it and replace it with something else, which is what I think happened. So it did take me a long time to kind of re-establish myself through my own process. I had to ask myself, okay, that's what I learned, but what is your process? How do you get to the material? Never mind what everybody says. You can take a little of this and a little of that. And that's kind of what I love about acting is that there are so many ways to do it. The the destination is always the same. Emotional realness, authenticity, truth telling, exposing yourself, allowing people to live vicariously through you, allowing yourself to be affected by the world that you are powerfully imagining. But there are a lot of ways to get there. You know, I'm not a technical actor. I not me. I'm not breaking down every scene into the exact beats and I'm learning where to switch this and do that. And that's not me. I am instinct and imagination and preparation.
No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that too, because that's something that a lot of people can relate to just in any interest or any field that they're in. When it
Mhm.
comes to you want to learn things from a technical or skill set wise, learn from who's ever teaching you and really take what they're saying as verbatim. But you also have to be able to realize that your passion and your characteristic of whatever God bless you with also has to merge with those things in order to ultimately become who you want to be with in whatever field you're in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And well, it's just, I mean, I guess it's the process of learning and of mastery. And I don't consider myself a master by any stretch of the imagination. I still think I have so much to learn. Um, but when you think of like university degrees, right? You come in, your bachelor is taking in all the information, is acquiring all the existing knowledge about this subject. Your master's is now you have to integrate it into something, right? You have to take an idea, you have to take what exists already, and then you have to give your opinion about what this subject is. But your PhD is when you go off completely on your own, right? In your PhD, you get to scrap everything that came before. I know it, I've learned it, I can teach it. What is outside of it? And it ultimately takes you back to yourself. It takes you back to that pre-bachelor place where you had this curiosity, this instinct for something. You wanted to learn all about it. And now you get to pick and choose what's useful to you, what you get to keep, how you can think about the things that are already known differently and forge this whole new perspective on whatever that subject is. At least that's the way my mother explains it to me, who is an academic and
Mhm.
spent a lot of time in school. I don't know how she's done it.
Yeah.
Smart cookie.
So I just want to jump forward a little bit, just to get in kind of to your credentials and some of the stuff that you've done. So based off of your most notable roles, we have
Hmm.
Virgin River, Battlestar Galactica, Charmed, and Hemlock Grove, just to name a few. The
Mhm.
credentials are a bit lengthy. What would you say out of those roles, which role did you play is most similar to Candace in real life?
Kaya. Yeah, Kaya. Virgin River, definitely. It's the most similar to me. She's naughty. Um she, I I'm really so grateful for Kaya. She really met me at exactly the right place in my life. I'm just grateful for her every day. I spent so many years crying, dying, crying, being killed, lost in space. I got to a point where I was just like, I can't do it anymore. I need a woman with volition. I need somebody spirited. I need somebody who's on, not falling into the depths, but coming out of it.
Mhm.
I love that she's a little messy. I love she kind of puts her foot in her mouth all the time. She's just got great moxie, she's just got so much energy, but she struggles with feeling her feelings. She likes to run towards the danger so she can run away from the feeling.
Mhm.
And that's I guess we'll call those my Gemini qualities. I can think the hell out of a thought, but
Mhm.
I'm not, the acting is where I put my feelings, I guess, because that's a safe container because it's not really mine, it's her, it belongs to somebody else. So I get to do that process there. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of course, you're an actor. My medium is not, my medium is my physical self.
Mhm.
And you always have a bit of yourself in every character, or at least that's been my trajectory. And when I was on Battlestar, it was so funny because the show was so successful, set was so lovely. These people are still my family. I know that sounds corny and gross, but it's true.
Mhm.
um, but I was, I was in that class, right? And I was so isolating and in this weird kind of no man's land of identity. And I couldn't figure it out. I was like, this is it, right? This is the success. Like I'm on the show. I did the thing. Like, why don't I feel good?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so it was a strange time, and I spent a lot of time alone, trying to figure that out. But I guess that the character also met me in that place.
Mhm.
She was also this person struggling with her identity and her sense of self and her place in where she found herself. And it was all just a little too, she was still so wide-eyed and kind of naive that she believed so much in love and in humanity and in the right way to do things. Um, and was devastated by it. And I really felt that really profoundly, really, really profoundly at the time, to the point where I had to take some time off and really examine which were my thoughts and feelings and which belonged to Duala and how to extricate myself from having lived inside her for 6 years.
Do you also think that was your most challenging role?
Hmm.
The role you had to do the most preparation for, or even kind of be.
Hemlock Grove was actually what I felt like was my most challenging role,
Okay.
actually. Yeah. I did quite a bit of prep for Chasseur. I had such a sense of her in the beginning, like this kind of lone wolf, sort of self-destructive character that but really appeared very much in control, was very much out of control. And yeah, maybe the chaos of that was like it was just a little too close to the fire. And having had that experience on Battlestar, I was like, ooh, is this safe? Is this that preparation was as a way to kind of barricade my personal self from the chaos of Clementine Chasseur.
Mhm.
She had the best name, though. Hey.
No, that is a fire name. So I know we only have a couple minutes left, and I don't
I
want to.
told you I can talk, Dante. I told you I'd
I love it.
talk
I'm
the
perfectly
yeah.
fine with it. It makes my job easier. It makes the conversation better. It makes the viewers like more able to know who you are and get engaged with you and follow you. So I'm perfectly fine.
Good.
So just being a woman of color in the Hollywood or entertainment industry, what would you say? Because I want to make it a double part question because I don't want it to seem like it's just a negative thing. What would you say
Mm.
have been your biggest challenges being a woman of color in Hollywood, as well as how have you been able to exude or show your, I would say, abilities or powers as a woman of color in Hollywood?
Mm. I mean, ooh, ooh. Don't cry. No. To be blunt, the biggest challenge is payment. The biggest challenge, and again, I'm not alone in this. This is not news. We
Mhm.
hear Miss Taraji speaking quite tentatively about it, but it is the truth. Viola says the same thing. I don't understand why we need to be the least paid. I like that part confuses me. I really thought it was based on experience and merit and your value. And I mean, now I know there's the Instagram of it all and the followers and the marketing. And sure, I take that note. And it's not that I feel like I'm entitled to something. I just want to be paid what everybody else is. You know? There's a standard. And I don't know why it's such a challenge that it just comes up so often about having to prove your value. It's so confusing to me. I'm always just like, yeah, but you want to hire me. So what, isn't that the
I agree. I agree.
Um, and again, I am not alone in this. This is not it's improved certainly. And now that I have a strong team and they believe in me, and so with the resume that I have now, feel a lot more comfortable to really push harder and fight a little more. But that has always been interesting. Back in the day, they'd say crazy things to you like Superman can't have a black girlfriend. You know, like
Mhm.
who are we gonna cast as your mother? These types of things. I'm like, I don't know, that sounds like a you problem. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Mhm.
that's definitely improved. I think the power that we have, I think, is always in the intersectionality. That idea is that when you solve the problems of the lowest rung on society, you sort of solve everybody's problems, and Black women are particularly positioned to
Mhm.
speak on a place of authority about that. And so there's a real opportunity for leadership and modeling, um, collaborative behavior, uh, consideration, and compassion. When you don't have anything to lose, you can speak the truth quite clearly. Your position to kind of call stuff out, and I feel that. Um, it has changed, It has changed. I feel the change palpably, and I think a lot of it is because we have more women of color in the executive, and that's always what I've said is that it's the decision makers that are going to change the tone of things, and that's where we've got to be. But yeah, that intersectionality, you can have a great deal of empathy. You can put yourself in other people's shoes. You can speak for a really broad cross section of the population because you you have a relationship with all these kinds of marginalized, difficult, challenging, conflict-ridden places. And so you know that. You've learned it. You can speak from it. And we have an authority there. And I try to be mindful of it. Yeah.
For
If
sure.
that makes sense. It's hard to describe.
No, it makes sense. I'm raised by a woman of color and my lady is a woman of color, so I can relate and I know the power that you guys have, which is why I asked that question.
Thank
Um,
you.
and just to close out, I want to reference a quote that you had in another interview because it's something that
Hmm.
I've heard before and I want you to elaborate on it just a little bit. If you want to be a good artist, live a full and rich life. Elaborate on that a little bit for me.
I had a director say that to me very early on in my career. Sh I think I had done something silly, like a new actor thing. The scene was in the morning and I came in and I sat down and I yawned. And she was like, "Cut."
Hmm.
She's like, "Don't bring all that indicating mess on my set, okay?" What did you do today? Like what is going on in the rest of your life? And she really laid it into me. She was like, your art is drawing on humanity. And who are you as a person? What do um how are you going to translate the plethora of human feeling and instinct and reaction if you don't go out there and do it yourself. And I really took that to heart. I mean, I started acting so young, and like I said, all through my 20s, I was really busy, gratefully. But it got to a point after Battlestar, I was like, oh, I don't actually know what it's like to be in love in a certain way. I don't know what a lot of yeah, I just hadn't had the experience because I'd been working, and I really um when I'm working, I'm working. And so a lot of my relationships really got sacrificed early on in my life. So I really made a point of taking that advice, and I went out and I found life, in all its messiness. And it's true. There's a difference between the academic study of human psychology and being devastated by somebody and feeling utterly alone and having to pick yourself up and go to work or function somehow. There's there's the ecstasy of being in, large groups, dancing, music, being outside of yourself in all these incredible ways. There's You don't know what fear is until you really, experience that. And I realized that I had to go and like fill up my palette. My palette was empty. I'd been functioning with sort of four colors, and I needed to go out and get those colors. And in order to inform what the next chapter of my career was going to be, that was the study, the travel and going out into the world and putting myself in situations that maybe that I don't recommend, but it certainly
No regrets though. You
it
learned
was
from them.
it was grist for the mill. No, absolutely no regrets. Absolutely no regrets. I learned so much about myself in a way that I don't know I would have, and I'm incredibly grateful for. My mother would always apologize to me because we're single mom, new country, we're immigrants, it was challenging, and there were a lot of ways that she couldn't be there. She wanted to, but she couldn't. She was working two or three jobs at the time. I was working two or three jobs sometimes. And she would always apologize to, oh, this was hard for you, and you had to go through this. And I'm like, I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for that struggle because it's how I found out who I am.